I'll admit, before I gave birth, I was really scared of tearing too. Hi, and welcome to my channel, Shades of Sage, where I discuss all things motherhood. My name is Taishima, and today I am back with another requested video. This video was requested a while ago, so sorry I'm just now getting it out. But today's video is about vaginal tearing during childbirth. So my experience with vaginal tearing, because I did suffer tears for both of my vaginal births, and why tearing happens, the degrees of tearing, and some ways to hopefully or maybe possibly prevent tearing in your birth. So if you are pregnant currently, or if you plan on having children in the future, hopefully you will find this video helpful. So let's get started. So I am a mom of 3. My first birth was an emergency C-section, and then I had 2 successful VBACs after that. For both of those VBACs though, I did tear 2nd degree. So the recovery was pretty painful. I have to admit, it was painful. It wasn't as bad as the C-section recovery, but it did still hurt. But I was just so happy to have my VBACs, honestly, that I really didn't even mind that much. I did have stitches with both of them. I didn't count, maybe like 20 stitches or so. For my second birth, I didn't feel the stitches at all. They gave me like a numbing shot before they did the stitches, and I didn't feel those stitches. I did feel the stitches, unfortunately, for my third, but overall, I still feel like it wasn't that bad. For the recovery for my second, so this was the first time that I tore, I felt like it hurt a little bit longer just because I didn't like really know what to do as far as like how to sit and walk with a tear. But for my last, I kind of knew what to do. I was more prepared for the tear, and so I just took it really slowly. Boppy pillow was a great help for me. I actually had 2 boppy pillows, so I had one for breastfeeding and one to like sit on. That helped a lot, so I would put that down wherever I was sitting. If I was sitting on a bed or if I was sitting on a couch, I would put the boppy pillow down and kind of sit in that circle in the middle. That helped a whole bunch, and I just took it easy while I was healing. So sitting down, standing up, or walking upstairs, I try not to like stretch my legs out too much, obviously, because you don't want to pull at the stitches, or you don't want your stitches to come undone. So I just took it really gentle, really easily while I was recovering from my tears. And it took about, for my first, I felt like it took maybe like 4 weeks for me to feel like normal or okay again. And for my last, it took me like 2 weeks, like if that long. It really wasn't that bad, I feel like, for my last, because I knew what to expect, and I felt like I bounced back a little bit better than my second. But yeah, I did tear for both of my births. For those of you out there who haven't given birth yet, I just want to say, don't be worried about tearing. I know it sounds really bad if you haven't gone through the labor process, but it's really not that bad, at least in my opinion, because I feel like you don't even feel the tear when it happens, at least for me. And I had my births unmedicated, so I didn't have an epidural or any pain medication at all. I did not feel the tear when it was happening. In the moment, it's just so much already going on. You're dealing with the contractions, you're dealing with pushing the baby out, or you're dealing with laboring until you get dilated. And so it's already, everything's already swollen down there anyway. So at least for me, I did not feel my tears when they happened. Afterwards, the doctor's like, okay, you tore, we're gonna sew you back up, and that was it. So I just want to put your mind at ease a little bit. You probably won't feel your tear, and hopefully during the process it won't be that bad for you. And I'll admit, before I gave birth, I was really scared of tearing too. I've heard horror stories, I watched some graphic videos and whatnot, but it wasn't that bad for me. And again, I did tear only 2nd degree, so if you have experienced a 3rd degree or a 4th degree tear, which I'm going to go into shortly, that recovery or that process may be way more painful for you. Just keep in mind that everybody's body is different, and of course, if you have an epidural, you probably won't feel the tear as it happens, and depending on how much you tore or what degree you tore to, then you'll have to deal with the recovery process afterwards. So now let's talk about why tearing happens. So tearing basically happens during childbirth because the tissue, the vaginal tissue, is stretching, of course, through dilation, and is stretching as you push the baby out. And first-time moms especially are at a higher risk or a higher chance of tearing just because they never passed something that big through their vagina before. I looked up the stats. They said about 95% of first-time moms will tear. That was my experience when I delivered my second. Even though it wasn't my first birth, it was my first vaginal birth. So I did tear for that one. I did tear for my last. Most cases, chances are you will tear, but the more children you have and the more it gets stretched out, have a lower chance of tearing for each birth after that. Another reason why tears happen is a fast birth. So say you go into labor and you dilate really fast, and by the time you're ready to push, you push the baby out fast as well. That also can cause tearing because the body kind of hasn't caught up to all the stretching that it's about to do, and then the baby just comes out rapidly. So that's another reason why some women tear. If you are one of those women who has really fast births, that could be a factor in why you tear or why you will tear. So another reason why tearing happens is the position of your baby. So if your baby is face up or sunny side up, the back of their head, so like the dome of their head, is putting more pressure on your rectum. So the area between the vagina and your anus is called the perineum, and you can tear that way just because of how the baby is laying in position to your vagina and your cervix and all of that. So another possibility in you suffering a tear is a assisted birth. So whether that's forceps or whether that's the vacuum, sometimes just using those other methods leads to a tear because it's like it's a foreign object going in there, and that usually happens if you can't push the baby out, or if the baby gets stuck, or it's been too long that you've been pushing and they really need to get the baby out for whatever reason. Those two devices may be used in your delivery, and it does increase your risk or your chances of you tearing. And then the last reason why vaginal tears happen is long labors. So on one side you have fast labors, which can lead to tearing, and then on the other side you have long labors, which can lead to tearing. And I feel like I experienced both of these. So for my second, the labor was really long. It was at least 36 hours from start to finish, and I did have vaginal swelling because I did have like a lip. And I did talk about this in my birth story, so if you want to know what I'm talking about, I can link that down below. But I had the swelling just because it was taking the process so long. I got to 9 centimeters, and then I had the lip, and then I had to wait. And so it was swollen by the time I actually pushed him out, and I believe that led to my tear. And then for my last, he came really fast. The whole labor itself was 7 hours, but the pushing was like 10 minutes. And by the time I had the urge to push, I just pushed, and he was out in like 2 or 3 pushes, if that. So of course I tore in that case too because it was really fast. So if you have a fast birth, so if you have a long labor, or if you're pushing for a long time, that can lead to tears as well because the vagina is swollen. So then you are more susceptible to getting a tear in that case as well. So degrees of tearing. There are 4 degrees of tearing. The first degree is just the skin, so it's just superficial little tears. It usually doesn't require stitching, and you will have like mild pain, mild discomfort, maybe even some burning while you urinate, but it's not that bad. It usually heals on its own, and it doesn't require any extensive work down there. So second degree tears, which is what I experienced, is when you tear the skin and muscle of the vagina and the perineum. So that in most cases does require stitches, and it's more painful. The recovery takes a little bit longer, about a few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And of course, you definitely want to refrain from sexual intercourse while you are healing from your tears, because you don't want to run the risk of getting an infection while you are healing. So a third degree tear, that tear is a little more extensive, it's a little worse, and that tear extends into the muscles of the perineum and the surrounding areas like your anus. And so a lot of times with this tear, you may require more surgery, so like an operation room surgery, not just stitches. Like you'll have to actually be sedated, and it is a longer recovery as well. Sometimes you'll suffer incontinence and just a lot of pelvic floor issues. So a third degree tear is a serious tear. And then you have a 4th degree tear, which is even more serious than that, and that is a tear through your rectum and your anal sphincter. So it is really extensive, this one. This again does require an operation, and it does require some physical therapy afterwards, because a lot of women have a lot of bladder issues or a lot of incontinence issues, both for urination and for bowel movements. So physical therapy would be extremely beneficial for those women who do suffer from 3rd degree and 4th degree tears. So now let's talk about how you can prevent tearing. So one way to prevent tearing is your labor position. So any position that doesn't put too much strain on your rectum or on your perineum and your vaginal floor. So like hands and knees is really good. Being in the upright squatting position is really good. Also side lying as well. All 3 of those positions lessen the pressure of the baby's head on those areas, and so hopefully that will help you not to tear. Another way to help prevent tearing is to push instinctively as opposed to being coached. And what I mean is sometimes the doctors will coach moms, and they'll do that countdown, they'll do that 10 count for 3 breaths while you're having a contraction. But if you push when you feel the urge to push, you have a less chance of tearing because you're doing so and using your body as your guide of when you should push. So sometimes the coach pushing leads to tears just because you may be pushing when you shouldn't actually be pushing. So just really listening to your body when you're in that pushing stage and going with the contractions and with the urges to push, because at a certain point in labor, your body will start pushing for you. This is of course a little bit easier to do if you are having a natural birth. And what I mean by that is a birth without pain medication, but if you do have an epidural, your chances may be a little bit higher of you tearing because you can't actually feel when you're pushing. And in a lot of cases, to combat this, doctors will turn down the epidural medicine so that you can feel a little bit more while you're pushing, so that you can push more instinctively with your body. So pushing intuitively is a great way to help hopefully prevent you from tearing. And my last tip for this video to prevent tearing is perineal massage. So you can start doing this in your 3rd trimester. When I looked it up, I think I saw for the most part, like starting at 34 weeks, you can start this. But somewhere in your 3rd trimester, you can start perineal massage. You can do that daily. You can do it yourself, or you can have your partner do it for you with lubricant, or you can even use oil, or you can even use evening primrose oil. I know a lot of women have great success with that and they really like that. So you can take that orally, or you can take that and like pierce the capsule and use that oil to massage down there. So again, you want to be massaging the vagina and the area between the vagina and the anus, which is your perineum. So if you do that daily for 10 to 15 minutes at a time, that should help stretch that area out and prepare you for childbirth when you do go to deliver, and hopefully you won't tear. But again, you can do all these things and still suffer a tear. I just want to help you hopefully not feel fear about tearing. It does happen, but in most cases, it isn't that bad. I am going to do a part 2 of this video just because I didn't want this one to be so long. Vaginal tear recovery and the steps and the things that you can do to help your recovery process go a little bit more smoothly for you. So stay tuned for that. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you have torn in the past, what was your experience? Did you have a 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 1st degree tear? I would like to know down in the comments, so leave a comment down below. If you like this video, give me a great big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I really appreciate that. I love all the comments. I have been having some issues with not getting all of my comments, so I did fix that issue. So hopefully that issue is resolved. So continue commenting on the videos. I really enjoy reading them. Thank you so much for watching today, and I see you in my next video. And remember to let your story be your power. Bye.